Alrighty then, and we're back. Kevin, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good. I jotted down my thoughts this time, so I'm feeling a lot more organized.
Let's go. I'm glad. I want to see what bullet points you're able to jot down. We are going back to our episode 2 of Song of Ice and Fire. My dumbass put a Song of Fire and Ice, and I'm pretty sure I said that a few times in the last recording, so I'm really glad we're not uploading that one. But let's see, we're gonna get things going with chapter 4, Ned. It's going to be our first Ned chapter. How do we feel? We've got a lot about Ned, but we haven't seen the inner workings of Ned. How was your first impressions on this chapter here?
Now that I had a chance to go back and revisit it, it is honestly like a fun chapter because I feel like when I
Mm-hmm.
first read it, I was like trying to capture all the details. And for this, I went back and it's kind of like, it's kind of I imagine like that scene where it's like 10 years after high school, you see everyone's changed. Like I think there's like a lot more whimsy in it versus like the show. Because I feel like in the show they kind of play into this little bit of like, oh, Robert's this like fat guy now or whatever. But I feel like it comes off better through the book. So chapter's pretty fun. I feel like it as light of a George R. Martin story can feel. I feel like this is like good vibes. Like everyone's here, the gang's all back together, so it's fun. I think it's like it kind of reminds me of like Fear, where the
Mm-hmm.
journey's over. This is the story after the journey, so it's pretty fun. That's my like overall first impressions of the chapter.
Dude, I got a lot to relate with you on that. I also wrote down that this was like a high school reuniting with like the high school homies.
Yeah.
Um, I went a little personal with it because I kind of wrote like that moment when you see your friends that you haven't seen in a long time, and like you're not sure if like, hey, are they cool with me? Are they still the same person it was from way back in the days? A lot of whimsy for a George chapter for sure. A lot of uneasiness too. It's like, is this the same guy? And
Yeah.
I thought there was moments where it was like, oh yeah, it is, and then it's like, I don't know. Like it's just a lot of tug and pull for Ned's character, but
Definitely.
uh, it's our first intro to Rob's character, Robert King Rob. Another thing here that I enjoyed from the chapter, aside from it being a reunion chapter, it was also kind of like remember your duty, especially towards the end. We knew Robert was coming up for something. We just wasn't sure the exact reason as to why. And he finally, reveals it at the end of the chapter where he's like, "Hey, like, you got a daughter, I got a son. I need people I can trust around me." And Ned clearly doesn't want to go. He's clearly conflicted about it. Yeah, that kind of is a general thing. I did kind of want to talk a lot more about my favorite moment of that chapter, which was the
Hmm.
crypt scene,
Mm.
especially since it was right after Rob got there and he's like, "I need to see the crypts." And Ned, I think the line says like, "Oh, I loved him for that."
Yeah.
It's really cool seeing this character who is Ned's brother in his mind like be like reaffirmed, I guess, in Ned's eyes. It's been 9 years since he's seen him, and
15.
he's oh, you sure it's 15?
Uh, that's what I wrote down, but maybe I'm wrong. It's been 15 years. Oh, you're right. No, it's been 15 years since they overthrew the kingdom. It's been nine. I think it's like 9 years because they met
Nine.
up for the Greyjoy rebellion, right?
Right.
Okay, that's what it
Yeah.
was.
Okay. Yeah. So, dang, I was like 15. That was even longer. But yeah, no, it's been a few years. There's a few things that really impressed me about the chapter were the description of like scale. I think George does really good with writing about the large host that comes towards Winterfell,
Mhm.
describing the size of the people. And then I felt like this was really cool that he did. He kind of juxtaposed it with like, how come there's no peasants here to greet me, Ned? Like, what's up? Like, you have a kingdom that's as big as all the other six combined,
Where's
and
everyone?
where's everyone? And I felt like that had a lot of meaning to Robert's character because it's like, well, no one really likes you. I think that was like kind of a subtle way to say it, like, well, no one's gonna come out for you. And then
Mm-hmm.
and then B, I think Ned just says like, oh, we're just shy, like it's just how we are. So it's kind of like a lack of understanding of Northmen and Robert wanting to like not understanding his subjects fully, or at least the ones he like can't under doesn't want to understand. He doesn't really understand Northern men, because then he starts talking about how good the South is, and like, oh my, I feel the heat for once, dude. Like you got, the smoke is too strong over there. Bee's too bad. My steak too juicy, and up here you got nothing.
Yeah, I also have like a lot of thoughts on this specific exchange as well, because I feel like you mentioned at the beginning we had an inkling as to why Robert was coming. Kat was already thinking like, oh, maybe he's here to ask you to be the hand, because what's his name died, John Aaron.
Yeah,
John
John.
Aaron died. But so he comes, he basically confirms like, yeah, I'm here to take you back to King's Landing. And I think it's interesting because the way I read it was like, it was almost like he was courting him, like,
Mm-hmm.
man, you probably honestly like it better in the South. The steaks are better, the wine is better, the women are better. And I feel like in that, he's almost kind of like, because he knows that if he asks Ned, will you come down and be my hand? Like you said, I need people who I can trust. I need allies around me. He knows that if he asks Ned is honor bound. It's like Catelyn already mentioned it earlier. Like it's his duty to, if the king calls upon you, like you need to answer the king, right? And like
Mm-hmm.
Ned is old school like that. The North is old school like that. Like they honor pacts and traditions and everything. So I feel like asking is more so just a formality, but we all know what's going to happen at the end of the day. Ned is
Yeah.
going to get up and go to King's Landing. So I feel like with Robert sitting there, like, hey, you're going to like this, you're going to like that. I feel like it also kind of shows Robert's like, is the right word, like selfishness? Because I feel like he's almost just trying to make himself feel better because he knows Ned, would want nothing more than to just live and die in the North, like all of his
Mm-hmm.
ancestors. The crypt is a really good example of that as well, of like when Robert said like, oh, we should have buried her somewhere beautiful underneath a tree she would have loved. And Ned's like, no, like she belongs here in the North with everyone else. So Ned would want nothing more to live and die in the North. And Robert is taking him away from that. And I feel like with him trying to convince Ned, like, hey, honestly, you should be thanking me that I'm taking you down there. You are gonna love it. It just makes me feel like, he's just a really selfish guy. Like he's pulling his supposed best friend away from the place that he wants to be, away from his family. And it's because he doesn't have his own house in order. Like I'm thinking about too, like a point that I also wanted to bring up about like the way that they changed in terms of like appearance. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it almost makes you think like I wonder, is Robert's current appearance like a reflection of also how he's ruling the kingdom? He's gotten lazy. He doesn't want to do anything. He lets the hand do all the work, and he's just sitting there getting fat and lazy all the time. And I feel like the kingdom, to your point, people just aren't that excited to see him. They don't really respect the king, at least not like how they did the Targaryens. So I really like that exchange where he was kind of advertising the South, but I feel like it was more so in a place of like, man, should I feel bad that I'm taking my best friend out here and potentially dooming his life? No, because he's gonna like it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
he's gonna like it. Dude, I think it's funny you brought that up. I think you kind of completed a thought that I wasn't able to truly form while reading the chapter, and
Hmm.
it was that. It's like, I like the way you phrase it, where it's like he's being selfish by trying to like present things in the South like as much better. And you're right. It's also things that Robert knowingly
That Ned
knows.
doesn't care
Yeah, that
about,
Ned
right?
doesn't care
Yes,
about.
I
It's
was
like he's
thinking that
appealing to
too.
his own nature to try to convince Ned to get over here.
He's like
And
talking about that he likes.
yeah,
Man,
exactly. It's like I was like, dude, Kev, you gotta come over here, dude. Your Warhammer is crazy right now. Like,
you're gonna love it,
you're
man. It's
gonna
so
love it.
good.
Gotta love it. Nothing but that. Yeah, it's so funny. And closing off that thought too, I also wrote that like it was kind of a reflection of the way he's running things. It's like the true state of the kingdom is a reflection of the way Robert is. I've kind of wrote like I wasn't sure if George meant to put this intentionally, but I kind of reflected as like hyper capitalist in a
Mm,
sense, especially when he recounts like, oh, dude, everyone in the South is rich and fat, dude. Like,
yeah.
come on. Yeah,
Well,
so
the
that's
thing is,
funny.
like, there's definitely small folk that he's just completely
Dude,
like. discounting. Honestly, now that you bring it up, he
Bro,
kind of just ignores all the small folk, you
yeah,
know?
dude, get out of my head. That's literally my next line I was gonna say. Like he fails to like understand like the poor people unless they're showing a little bit of titty. That's the only time when he's paying attention to the poor people. He's like, dude, these poor people, even though women, they be getting naked out here in the summer. Like that's the only time he like ever brought up the poor people. And
Oh, wow, that's so true.
yeah,
Flea
and
Bottom,
it's
dude. King's Landing
dude,
is in your backyard. You can't even.
yeah.
It's not
Like
amazing for everyone.
no, it's not, dude. But yeah, I thought it was funny. But yeah, and then he brings up the. It doesn't help that he also brings up later the poor people's the poor people thing, the
Small
lower
folk.
class, the small folks, saying like, because it's like the hand wishes it, the king
Mm.
wishes it, the hand builds it. But I think in the show it's also different. It's like the hand, the king eats and the hand, no, the king shits and the hand wipes is in the show, and in the books is the king eats and the hand cleans or something. I actually can't recall the.
I think it might also be the hand wipe. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Yeah, but it doesn't even help. It's like he knows he's gonna come anyways. He's just kind of there for the formality. And I think he had to throw in the getting married to getting the kids married. I think that was
Mm.
just like that might have just been for Cat, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. It is an interesting play as I'm thinking about like the wider world of it all, because I feel like the Starks are usually pretty like they're not. I don't think they've ever even married a Targaryen, right? Because I feel like when the Targaryens around, everybody wanted to marry one, right? If
Hmm.
if possible, or at least like adjacent to kind of get in with the house. So I did think that was also an interesting play for him to offer that up. A lot of, and we're gonna kind of get through this with like the first couple chapters that we're gonna cover here, but I'm realizing Robert has terrible political prowess. You know,
Yeah.
is what I'm realizing. Because I also just think about the context of like, he's gonna reveal. Okay, well, one of the things that I thought was big in this chapter was no one trusts the Lannisters. Like
No.
very early on, we're hearing like, man, these guys suck. Like no one likes them. Everyone thinks they're selfish. They'll kill you if it means they get to survive. Right, I think Robert also shares that opinion as well. And in my head, I just think like, dude, these people are way smarter than you. You really don't think that they know that you're like not messing with them? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know we get revealed this later in the chapter where it's like why else would they have come all this way if not to make Ned the hand?
Hmm.
But I think that's in the Bran chapter later. But yeah, it's like it's weird, and I think this plays a lot into like what did Robert like mean to accomplish by taking the throne. And I did write a little bit about this in the theory crafting section. But now that you brought it up, I'm reminded of when Ned is having that eternal conflict where he's like, dang, I might be getting ahead of myself here. Where he's getting the eternal conflict. No, no, okay, this was in the Cats chapter previously, where he's like, Brandon would know what to do. Like Brandon was the one
Yeah.
who was meant to have this. Brandon would know what to do. Robert is the oldest one from the Baratheons, right? And we had this whole civil war happen. Kind of because of Rob wanted it, right? So
Mm.
it is weird that like he would let his kingdom kind of fall into it, letting the Lannisters slowly kind of take over the courts. We learn a lot later that they're in like horrible debt because of it, and so it is weird that Robert is still trying to make attempts to kind of keep what he has, which I don't know how long he has really, because he even said like I'm just trying to like just live life,
Right.
and
Yeah,
man, it just sucks.
yeah, it's just like not a lot of forward thinking from him. And I have like a very fun. Is it in this chapter where I bring it up? What's funny is I think that Robert. I'm trying not to call him Rob because we
Because
have Rob Stark.
you're not that
Robert.
close with him.
Yeah, I'm not that close with him. Like, I think Robert has like terrible political prowess. I think Ned is not that bad. Like, I feel like he has like a healthy amount of skepticism that you need to kind of survive in this world. But I think he also doesn't have the best instincts. Like, we get to see a very early version of like what he would have been like in a political setting with how he's already pitching how to handle the Eyrie, right? He wants to make the little boy, forgot his
Mhm.
name. They want to make the little boy. Oh, his name is also John?
Dude, nope. I am mistaken. It's Rob Aaron. His namesake
Rob
after
Aaron.
Robert. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, so Rob, We want to make Rob Aaron the Warden of the East. And okay, to the freaking Robert's point, you can't have a child running an entire section of the kingdom. But I think it's interesting. One of the things I want to get into, we might get into it when we get to Catelyn's chapter, but I wonder how different this story would have played out if Cat was with Ned the whole time. Because I feel like in Cat's chapter,
Yes. Oh my
right?
God. Yeah. Yeah. I'm loving that you said this. I've thought about this.
Yes, because I feel like in Cat's first chapter, we learn about the supposed, murder attempt or the supposed murder of Jon Arryn, and her and Ned are bouncing ideas off each other. They're theory crafting. They're trying to figure out what's the best play. Like, I feel like I really am appreciating that scene more now because it did show that they had really good chemistry. They had full trust in each other, and I feel like in the Game of Thrones, no one can trust anybody. I mean, even Robert and his wife, they are, for the most part, kind of working against each other as well. Like, I'm trying to think of any other example in the story where there's two people just like fully locked. You know what I mean? And it sucks. We see it later in Kat's second chapter, especially. I think it's her second. Her second chapter, especially when is that the one where she's going crazy, or is that chapter 15?
No, that might be chapter 15. I think I did catch myself in error. I did think the chapter where they get revealed about Jon Arryn's death was previously, but it's actually after.
Oh, so it's a chapter 7?
It's chapter 6, yeah, where she gets to talking about the note.
Got it. That makes sense. Well, my whole point is like, I wonder how different it would have been if they were able to stay together. Because I feel like Kat, being from like a not super northern house, like she's from the Riverlands, like she has pretty good political instincts. And it's also going to get into something that I want to bring up from Arya's chapter, but I'll put a pin in it. But just this idea that she's like more trained to kind of handle the Game of Thrones. You know what I mean? I feel like Ned ultimately was kind of like, he just was not put into the right position. Like, I feel like he has decent, political mind, and he has like a good heart, so he can make good decisions. But, that leaves him open to then just getting backstabbed by people. Whereas I feel like Kat, she's not letting that happen.
Kat would have sniffed it out, and
she would have sniffed it out.
I think later, as we progress to the series, we get to see a lot of vindication for Kat's character go on. But yeah, dude, you're right. I've been thinking about this a lot, where it's like, man, if Ned just had Catelyn by his side all the time, he would be unstoppable.
Right.
And I unfortunately think that the only duo that comes to mind that's as locked in as we're thinking of is Jaime and Cersei.
Yes. The moment you said it, I immediately thought Jaime. Oh God.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, it goes to show why they were able to kind of get as far as they did. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they're not good at all. They're not cunning. Like they're stupid. They're dumb. They're dumb as heck.
Well, we'll see in Bran's chapter. Like, come on.
Yeah, we'll get there. Let's see here. I think we should close it off. I think we did spend the majority of the time in the crypt. Let's see. I kind of talked about a lot of the writing styles that I enjoyed. I like the feeling of dread that's kind of undertoned in a lot of these things. Like, this should be a reunion, but there's still a lot of stuff unsaid that makes the reader feels a little weird. One other takeaway that I really enjoyed, if you have any, please let me know. I really enjoyed the descriptions of Robert as, like, being described as like a huge man, a war horse. He had to ride a war horse, bone crushing, hugging, like, regardless of his current stature, he's still menacing, like, at least the way he's described. And the last thing here, I thought it was really funny the way it's described that he hugs Catelyn like a lost sister. And then meanwhile, Ned has to like kiss like the cold ring of Cersei. Like, it's just so funny that like Robert as a guy he's fun to be around. He's just a horrible person, and a horrible king, horrible dad, horrible everything else. But as an acquaintance, he's fun.
He's a chill guy.
He's a chill guy.
Yeah, I feel like we kind of went over everything that I really enjoyed. Funny that you bring it up. I literally wrote down like Robert's transformation from a once mythical warrior into a fat lazy king is interesting. So I'm in alignment there. I think I also liked the description they gave him. It was just like, man, like, this guy was the GOAT back in the day. I'll say one thing. I probably think like my favorite like line in this whole chapter was definitely when he's describing Rhaegar, where he's like, "In my dreams, I kill him every night. 1,000 deaths would be less than he deserves." It's just like you could really feel like the malice
Dude.
there. You know, like he freaking hates this guy. So it's interesting. It kind of like goes along with what we are talking about in the last episode. It's
Man,
just
dude.
like these descriptions of Rhaegar. You know, it's always fun just kind of hearing about him and hearing what everyone else thinks. I want to learn more about Rhaegar.
Yeah, let's actually get a little bit more into that because I think that's a perfect segue into the theory crafting section. I did also write out a standout line for me. It's the yearning that he has for Lyanna gets me
Mm.
every time. Dude, and I know they would have been horrible. I know they would not have been a good relationship, but goddamn, the way Robert yearns for Lyanna makes me want to cry sometimes. Like it's almost like I could tell he really loved her, but bro, she did not love you. And one of the lines here is she was more beautiful than that, the king said after a silence. His eyes lingered on Lyanna's face as if he could will her back to life. My God,
And
damn.
it's like, okay, where is this for Cersei? You know what I mean? Like maybe
Yes.
Cersei wouldn't be so evil.
No, I get it. I do get Cersei to some extent, and this is why. Like, bro, she wanted what Kat and Ned have.
She wanted definitely better than what she has
Yeah,
now, but
she want.
she wanted. We all know what she wants.
Yeah, oh brother. Anyways, let's go into this theory crafting section. I wanted to kind of stick with Lyanna's death because it is mentioned here for the first time. I
Hmm.
think it might have been the first. No, it is at least the second time. I think Danny, we do get mention of Lyanna and her dying, but this is the first time we actually get more of an intimate perspective on it.
Hmm.
Um, my connection is the flowers. I think it's weird that flowers get brought up more than once in this chapter. It is the rose petals on her arms while she's dying. Is I also thought that the rose petals could have been a great symbolism to the rubies on Rhaegar's chest plate. And one kind of little throwaway thing I also wanted to throw in when Lyanna says like that, like, will you promise me, Ned? And Ned says like he will, like I promise you. He recounts like the moment she said that or he said that she like slipped away. And I kind of wondered like I kind of want to throw too much at you, but like was she aware of the prophecy, right? I think we kind of briefly
Mm.
have talked about Rhaegar and like a prophecy aspect of it. Could Lyanna have been a part of it? Like, is indication that she knew and she only felt comfortable passing away once she knew that baby or a
Was born.
promise was promise was going to be completed by Ned. So that was an interesting thing. I don't think I ever got an indication that she knew or was aware. I kind of thought she was always kind of dragged along for the ride of just like being swept off her feet, falling in love with Rhaegar. But maybe there could have been more to it. And the last thing I kind of wanted to throw, this is a super throwaway, but it kind of adds to a convo I had with my parents because they started watching Game of Thrones as well.
Nice.
I think they started from like season 6 when it was coming out, and then they picked it back up from season 1. And they were asking like, how come it's Robert's family that gets to sit on the throne after the rebellion? I'm like, could it have been the Starks or could it have been Lannisters, whoever, right? And I had told him that like from the lore, the Baratheons had part of dragon's blood through like the grandma side.
Yeah.
And it's almost like it's a twice removed thing because Melisandre mentions this later. And so that means there is some Targaryen blood in the Baratheons once again, and I'll get into it, why I said once again. There's also mention of like Robert in his dreams, right? When he dreams of Rhaegar, he dreams of Lyanna. He dreams that he kills Rhaegar 1,000 times. My throwaway theory is this because of the Targaryen dream thing? Is this just a
Mm.
remnants of the leftover juice from Targaryen blood that he has in him? That he might could have been a dreamer. Maybe that's why he drinks a lot. He completed his thing, but he's still haunted by the dreams of Rhaegar. That's kind of just the thing I wanted to propose going forward. I don't know if we'll get any more to Robert dreaming. I think that type of stuff might be reserved for Stannis going forward. But did you have anything that you picked up or was interested in throughout the reading here?
No. But that is pretty interesting stuff. I like the idea of Liana maybe knowing more than we think. Not to get too woke, but I feel like maybe I've been looking at it from a very patriarchal lens of just like the guys are all doing things and the guys are the ones with all the plans. I never really stopped to consider, what was Liana thinking? Because obviously the narrative in the story so far is that like Rhaegar kidnapped her, and like my personal fan theory was like, no, it was like out of love.
Mhm.
But obviously, if it's out of love, then Liana obviously had some thoughts. So it just kind of makes me think now, how was Liana? Like, what was her like sense? Like, did she recognize what was going on? Because it's also, I guess you could say, disgraceful for the Stark house, right? If she
Yeah.
was running away with like a married man. So that's pretty interesting. That'll have to be something that I kind of like keep an eye on as I keep reading.
Yeah, now that you mentioned, I also want to keep an eye on that. Like, do small folk who maybe favor the Targaryens, do they have shit to say about the Starks? And I'm sure there are people like that. I think it's just you just can't express it or else you get your head chopped off. And then, dude, I kind of want to go ahead and close it off with a fun fact about House Baratheon. It's probably the only thing I could pin out that was a fun fact since we won't get a Baratheon chapter for a while. House Baratheon was one of the great houses prior to the rise of Aegon the Conqueror. It was actually called House Durrandon back in the day. During the conquest, Orys Baratheon, who was, some people said he was the bastard brother of Aegon, was sent to make a proposal to marry the daughter of the king in exchange for, supporting Aegon in this upcoming battle. The king felt insulted that it was a bastard who came to propose the hand and decided to say F you. After a long, arduous battle, King Argilag was killed, and Storm's End was given to Orys as a reward for his brave deeds. He also decided to marry the daughter of King Argilag and took over the sigil and the words of House Durrandon as his own. And that's also another reason why they have Targaryen blood, just because of that rumor alone that he was believed to be Aegon's bastard brother. So cool little thing there. But dude, how about we switch scenes right now because I think we need to warm up a little bit. I think we need to get a little cozy.
I got a little
A little
cozy.
cozy. I think this. Are you hungry? Are you hungry? Because boy, this motherfucking chapter made me so hungry reading this chapter.
Let's get
Chapter
it.
5. I want to get drunk on summer wine, dude.
Yeah.
I want to get some summer wine going.
I really like this chapter.
This is probably one of my favorite chapters from like early recollection of this book. Kevin, how about you lead us into this chapter?
Yeah, I love it. So here's the chapter, right, where the king's party's here, the Starks are hosting, drinks are flowing, and it's fun because you can kind of get the first insight into what it's like to be kind of like on the non-noble front, because we're seeing this through Jon's perspective. I really like it because we can kind of see like what benefits Jon receives as being like a bastard in the House Stark, because honestly, this guy mopes around all the time, but if you really think about it, he has the best of both worlds. Like, he is directly chill with the Lord of the North, right? Ned is basically his dad. But then he also has like none of the expectations that like noble children will have, because in this chapter, right, all the true quote unquote Stark children are having to be with like the royal family. They all look miserable. They're all having to be like, putting on their best foot forward. Whereas Jon gets to kind of sit in the back and drink with everyone else. A couple details that I really liked, and then that I noticed, and it's kind of like a growing theme of just like how when Jon is like looking at the party erupt and seeing everyone dancing, whatever, he looks and sees like there's 3 banners hung: Baratheon, Stark, Lannister. So very early on, we're starting to see like, why do the Lannisters feel like they can hold their banners up in the same line with the Starks and the Baratheons? The Baratheon is the king's house, right? So it makes sense. And we're in Stark territory. I think it's interesting, especially like when you think about like who else is there. Like, I'm sure there are also some pretty big. Because I'm thinking like, okay, I guess they're a major house, but you don't see like Theon Greyjoy. You don't see the Greyjoy banners up. They're also a pretty big house, right? We don't see like the Tully house up, right? That's Cassidy's house.
Yeah,
So
true. Yeah.
I think it's pretty interesting. Like a lot of foreshadowing going on in this chapter. I also like we're also starting to see the differences between each individual person. Like John is super perceptive. He's always kind of like looking around and seeing everything. And this is also, I talked about this in the last episode, but I think this is where we start to hear more evidence of like, so my theory of why Kat is so irrational about John.
Yeah. Yep.
This comes up again where I think it might be Benjen or somebody is like looking at John and they're like, man, he really looks like a Stark, like a real traditional Stark. So more very early seeds of like, Jon Snow looks more of a Stark than any of the other Stark children. But I'll leave it there for now. I think that the main details that I was paying attention to was, again, how proud the Lannisters are and the fact that they would raise their banner up. Would love to kind of hear your thoughts there.
Yeah, dude. No, I thought it was great you picked that out because that's actually not a detail I picked up until the Arya chapter, actually.
I was gonna bring it up again. Arya chapter.
Yeah, you connected that dots because I read it, but I didn't like really pay it much mind until you brought it up. But yeah, dude, there's definitely other houses in this party. I mean, think about it. The king is up north, and he's being hosted at Lord Ned's party. Like every major lord in the north is gonna go. Like you're gonna have the Costarks, you're gonna have the Boltons. And that's the only ones I can think of who are from there. But like they're definitely gonna be there, and the fact that they're not represented to that extent is fishy for sure. I kind of wanted to add on to your comment about John being perceptive, because there's one thing I noticed here. Tell me why in a John chapter we're getting the physical traits of the Lannister children. We're getting long golden hair, emerald eyes, golden curls, white blonde, taller, and then right after getting all this description of the kids, we get Jaime Lannister's description. Tall and golden with flashing green eyes. It's almost like he's close to connecting the dots himself, especially with so much talk about the children that we get into, like all the Stark children and the Tully children. There is no Robert in these kids. So I thought that was interesting for like those who have been paying attention. You're able to kind of pick that out.
I was also thinking that too, of just like, you would imagine at least one of them would be like a brute, right? But they're all like dainty and perfect. And I feel like, okay, you can say that the Stark children don't look like Ned, but Robb is big. Robb is strong. You know what I mean? Like the other kids are like tall or whatever. So I feel like there's at least some evidence of Ned being in those Stark children. But I would imagine with how big and burly with Robert and the Baratheons are, like, you telling me Joffrey is this little, twig kid?
Yeah, this twig kid's part of Robert, my boy. Lionel's descendant?
That's what I'm saying.
No. Dude, another thing I wanted to add to this John chapter, did you get a sense of like you've been to these parties before when you were reading it?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like John was kind of like that kid who didn't want to be at the party. He's like a loner, definitely can relate to him. One thing I also noted was how well John can get along with like misfits, and like ostracized people. Like, I feel like he works really well with that type of like that. I feel like it just kind of, again, goes to show like he's never really felt like he's been a noble because he thinks like he needs to hang out with these type of people. But I feel like we'll start to see it later. But I think Benjen kind of like alludes to this of like, John, like, you're a lot better than you think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't be going to the wall. Like, you're kind of the GOAT. But John is in his phase right now.
Yeah, and dude, I really appreciated Benjen's character in this chapter.
Mm.
I kind of like, gave him more points in this chapter than I previously had for him. Him being like the only one, like once he walked in, got greeted by everyone, was the first person to go to John and talk to him about it, and I thought that was really cool. You saw Uncle John. You got the Theo interaction, especially when he's like, "You been drinking, son?" Like, yeah. It's like, dang, dude,
He does
you
have like
done
that
messed up.
cool vibe.
He does, dude. He does, and he is. It's funny because I'm gonna jump a little bit, but into the Brand chapter where he's like John's so upset. Like I don't get why he's going to the wall with Uncle Benjamin. That's as good as going down south. It's like, yeah, this dude's cool as hell. Even Brand's like, I don't get it. Like he should be happy he's going with Uncle Benjamin. Let's see here. Bastard had learned nothing. I liked Ghost's description of this one.
Mm.
Ghost is for sure my favorite of the direwolves so far. He's just so cool. He's everything about John is cool, if I'm being honest with you.
It kind of just goes to show, like, I feel like John right now is kind of like firing off on all cylinders. You know what I mean? Like he's just good at a lot of things. He feels like a natural affinity to the North. He feels like a real true Northman. You know, and I think like the way that his dog is compared to the rest, and not to say like everyone else isn't training their dog as well, but you know, I feel like the fact that John is a bastard or whatever, and like he's felt so discarded, like I feel like he's really good at like taking care of things.
I like the way you said that, dude. Especially since I think it goes hand in hand with like his emotional maturity for his age. I think it plays really well, especially with when they're talking about like why he wants to leave, right? Where he was like, a bastard's as good as any to join in the Night's Watch. Like you need me. And then Benjen's telling him like, oh no, like you don't get it. Like just wait till you have a few bastards of your own. And then John to kind of lash out and say like, I'll never have a bastard, and like understand why he said it. Like for as young as he is, it's like, bro, especially for that age, this might be me being like a little gross, I guess, but like who's thinking about that nobleness back in those days, especially with the crew he's hanging around too. You're right. He gets along with this motley crew, and I think it's a lot of foreshadow to the crew he will have to deal with later. But he's already used to it. He's used to being in the back. He's used to sitting and listening to the tales of people who he's socially not accustomed to. Especially when he recounts that like he's always eating dinner with the family normally,
Yeah.
except tonight it's just they don't want the king to see.
Yeah.
And then, dude, how about the closing off of this chapter? Our intro to our man, my two favorite characters. Dude, I have so many favorite characters, but freaking Tyrion Lannister showing up at the end, being the unlikely source of knowledge that Jon needs to hear after being emotionally conflicted with what Benjen said, or like Benjen brought out. He's a bastard, dude. He's a bastard, and he'll never have bastards, and he's ashamed of it. And boom, Tyrion shows up. How do we feel?
I really like Tyrion. I really like his introduction. You know, I liked him in the show, but I think a lot of that was what's his name?
Peter Dinklage.
Peter Dinklage. I think Peter Dinklage. I mean, he honestly probably redeemed the character. I'm assuming, Tyrion's gonna be a little bit nastier,
Yeah, I think it shows early off too.
but he's pretty cool, and I appreciate these like alternative perspectives than just like the noble guy, the hero guy. You know, he's kind of like an insight of what would it be like to be in this world and just be like kind of cursed. Because you always wonder, especially like, how did people? Because disabilities have always existed forever. It's like, how would it be like to be in the Middle Ages with like a disability? So Tyrion is pretty interesting in that regard, and I love how he kind of owns it. He's like so honest and so confident, and it's because he's so smart. My actual standout line for this chapter was, I mean, you probably can guess it, but it's like the narrator description of just for a moment, Tyrion Lannister's king, shadow casted on him. Super heavy foreshadowing. What does that mean? Is Tyrion the game? But it kind of like paints him as like, this is a serious player. Don't sleep on this guy. He's one to look out for, especially in the game. So super interesting. I really like his feel like George is really good at kind of just like writing his dialogue. Like it's there's always like that joke of like when someone tries to write something smart but they're not, so really dumb. Like I do think Tyrion is a little bit clever, so I appreciate it. It's like good writing for him.
Oh man, yeah, dude, the way Tyrion is written off the bat, being naturally interested in the direwolf, for his own research purposes, he's just kind of like, I've never seen one. They say they're not, they don't go down the wall. I think they use sardonic as a way to explain the way he responds. Right here, where he says like, "You're your mother's trueborn son of Lannister," and he's like, "Am I? Oh, you should tell my dad that." Like, he's just so fucking good. Dude, the line you read is my favorite line from the chapter. It's the line I kind of like when I first read the book. It was what made me want to keep going. This was that line where I was like, dude, nah, I have to, like, everything's so much different in this as opposed to the show. And yeah, we could jump into the theory crafting because I think you kind of mentioned it where like, is this foreshadowing Tyrion as a big player for this game? And I think it is. There's a little bit more ways that we could look into it, and I don't know if I want to drop it just yet, but you know what, since we're in theory crafting, how about we just jump right into it? Jump right into it, dude. The theory craft that I know of, super loose. There's a rumor that Tyrion could have been a bastard of Aerys and Tywin's wife. He could have been raped. She could have been raped by Aerys because he was crazy. Save face, they wouldn't tell anyone. Aerys being as crazy as he was, and the Targaryen incest line not always being a flip of a coin. Tyrion is the result of that. I guess it's kind of said that Tywin really loved his wife, and the fact that he couldn't see himself like discarding Tyrion was the reason why he kept him long enough. And it also adds to the spitefulness that King Aerys had against Tywin during their years.
And vice versa. Tywin freaking hated King Aerys.
Yeah, and then it kind of plays a lot into why he's. I mean, I guess like any shithole dad would hate Tyrion, right? But like it gives a little bit more of a reason as to why he treats him as bad as he truly does.
I mean, Tywin is basically the male cat, if you think about it.
Yeah, he is. He's the one that he does a lot of heavy shit. But yeah, that's the loose theory that I kind of wanted to get into. I think one of the more concrete stuff that I did want to talk about was, what's Benjen's involvement with the Promise? I think we briefly discussed it last episode, when we had discussed like what could have brought Benjen to the wall. I think that was a little bit of our discussion, and I kind of got my gears turning, and I was thinking like maybe Benjen going to the wall was a little bit more strategical. Maybe in cahoots with Ned. He was like, dude, he told him what happened, and maybe Benjen kind of had a place ready for when Jon came of age, get him to Lord Commander route, and then have him live a decent life there. And the only reason why I want to put a little bit more weight into this theory is because I think the line Jon brings up is like, oh, Dad brought Robert to the crypt again, and they were talking for a long time, and then Benjen goes like, oh, you're like really perceptive. You should come to the wall. I was like, okay, like wait, like what was this just a one-liner? But like it felt like it kind of felt like maybe he's like, oh, he's catching on too, or like maybe Robert's catching on now. Like maybe we got to move our plans a little faster. And that's kind of the only thing I kind of had to throw around with this chapter. Did you have anything you picked out, dude, that you wanted to discuss?
That's definitely interesting. I do really like the Tyrion Targaryen theory because we also know, maybe it's from Jon's second chapter, but Tyrion has like a natural affinity to dragons. He loves them. He's always researched. So that one is pretty interesting, and that's pretty early on in the book. Why would they talk about Tyrion and why he knows so much about them? And how that was the first, he said when he was a kid he used to dream about the dragons.
Yeah, okay, Kevin, you picking up what I'm putting down. You picking up what I'm putting down.
Say, fire. That's it. And the Targaryens. That's all Viserys has been talking about is the fire, whatever. So that is pretty interesting. Also, my last note was like, and just thinking more about like the king line. and just like foreshadowing what Tyrion could be. It is interesting that it's a shadow that is
Yeah.
like a king. Could
Uh,
he be a shadow king?
lot to unpack, and I hope we will get more to it. I'll tell you that. Last thing, I kind of want to close off with a fun fact for this chapter. I kind of want to talk about the Night's Watch, dude. So here we go. They are a military order that predates the Age of Heroes, so way before the conquest. I actually couldn't get like an accurate timeline of to how long ago the Age of Heroes was. A long time ago. Let's see. They were just tasked with guarding the northern border. They're split up into three different positions. You have the stewards, the builders, and the rangers. During the conquest, when Aegon and his sisters first saw the wall, his sister Visenya was so impressed with the order that she modified the vowels, and that later became the King's Guard.
Hmm.
Okay. So let's see. How do we feel for the vibes for Cat's chapter? This is in the room, so this is definitely quiet room vibes. I'll tell you what, this this is probably my weirdest chapter of how I felt. And there's a reason why, but let's see. Yeah, you
Yeah.
want me to just kick it off here?
Yeah. Go.
So, first of all, I like seeing more of Ned and Cat. I think that's something to be said. I like the relationship a lot. I was also very impressed with the way the chapter introduces us to some of like the lore of Winterfell.
That's
Uh,
exactly what I was gonna bring up as
dude,
well.
being built over a natural hot springs. Wait, I gave them more credit than I thought. I thought everyone was kind of dumb in the Middle Ages, but
And okay, and that's what I was thinking too. Like I feel like just small little exposition like this, like make the world feel so real and like intentional. Like, yeah, if you were in the north, why wouldn't you build on top of a hot spring? Like it just makes Bran the builder feel like a real guy who got plopped into this freaking snowy hellscape and was like, shoot, you know, like I need to build something for my people to live in. So yeah, I love this. I love this chapter, and I love the world building that George does here.
yeah, dude. Yeah, especially since it's like, where the heck strategically placed hot spring in the middle of a tundra. Like, yeah, there's more to the Age of Heroes than I think we will get, unfortunately. Let's see here. I did put like this warm scene, however, got interrupted by a much needed discussion regarding Ned's loyalty to Robert. Ned still kind of thinks of him as buddy buddy, but Catelyn's here to remind him that like you can't say no to him. Like this is his pride now. I think Ned brings up like I could just say no. Like he's my boy. He's gonna say it's cool. But now it's a pride thing. He's a king now. It's different.
Hmm.
Regardless of what you guys had in the previous sense. Let's see. I think the news of Jon Arryn's death unfortunately kind of locked Ned into this position that I feel like one way or another, we did talk about it in Ned's chapter, he was gonna do it. So
Right.
regardless of what news was we were gonna get, he was gonna do it. But this time it kind of gave Ned like a conviction to like going out and investigate. Like there's more of a reason now. This is his family on the line now. This is this is serious for sure.
Hmm.
And then yeah, dude, the chapter was really it felt really short. There wasn't a lot to really talk about as a whole, other than like it's warm, but it felt weird. And I think that's mainly because I'm a little uncomfortable when it gets to like intimate scenes.
Mm.
And I think it was so funny. Like this is the first time I like appreciated like the dynamic between them, but I never thought there'd be a really interesting way to describe like nut. And I was like, okay, I was like she could feel the seed in him, and I was like, okay, cat. I was like, whoa, whew, it's getting a little high in
Yeah,
here.
honestly, the first time I read it, when it was like after Ned finished, I was like, finished doing what? I was like, doing what?
Doing
And
what?
then I got to like the next couple lines, like,
Yeah, I do appreciate George giving us that though. Only if not to like kind of show how intimate they are. Like
yeah, say like, yeah, they're real people, they're a real married couple do these things. It's normal, it's natural, and I appreciate that with them. It's not like, well, actually, even with Daenerys' chapter, it wasn't like super like risque,
Mhm.
so far. It gets pretty risque later with
Yeah.
Rand's chapter. Um, But yeah, it was tasteful. It was tasteful. It felt like a married couple. It wasn't too like, whoa, holy cannoli.
Holy cannoli. And then, dude, it's also like not only do we get like a little bit of graphic of a scene as this, but we also get like a scene where she's like recalling seeing Ned naked and just kind of being like, oh, he's so tiny. He's a small boy. He's more vulnerable and he's smaller now. And I
Okay,
was
you
like,
know what?
no one but Cat could kind of say that.
It's interesting because it did also remind me Ned and Kat are only like 30. You
Dude, yeah,
know,
they are. They're
they're
pretty
they are pretty
young.
young because I feel like in the show, they come off more like 40s, mid 40s, maybe early 50s. That reads more adult to me. Like 30 is like, you're still figuring things out. They're still pretty young. They got a lot of vitality to them. And it also kind of it like makes me think about just like what it would be like to live in this medieval world where I feel like we always talk a lot about Rob, John, all of them being so young, but maybe in medieval times, like 14, you're ready to start doing things because probably living to 30, you're living a good life. And there's probably not too many old people, probably only nobles. So they're probably at the peak of their life right now, I'd say, at least
Yeah.
in a medieval context.
No, you're right. And I think Catelyn does even mention that where she's like, "Oh, I hope," like talking about the net scene. She kind of says like, "Oh, I kind of wish like it takes because she's not that old enough to have another one." I think it's only been like 3 years since Rickon, so she still could give another child. So it's
Yeah,
also calling back to like duty, dude. Like it's always that like first and foremost for someone like Kat.
yeah, big for her character.
Yeah, and I think actually let's kind of stick with that. I think the biggest thing for her character, it's like in this moment, dude, where everything's going to shit, she has she has to accept her husband leaving. She has to accept the girls leaving as well for the benefit of that, and then a Bran leaving as well.
Mm.
She's like losing everything, right? And she's comfortable with this. She's fine enough to like not take a stand and say this, but by golly, dude, did she stand her ground and say, "Get John out of the fucking house"? And dude,
Yeah,
I
that's
feel
actually so funny. That's her red line. Like, take
that's
Brad,
your
do
red
everything.
light. Yeah.
But John needs to get the fuck out. I mean,
Okay, but
honestly, it's kind of
yeah.
the best for him though, right? Because if Ned's gone, honestly, if Arya's gone, what's really kind of left for him here, especially with Kat and how she treats him, especially later on. Just wanted to call that out.
Yeah, no, yeah, but I think it was big for her character too because I think previously to this we do get Catelyn telling us about like all the time she has confronted Ned about John, and it's like it was hard for her to hear the stories from other people that like the great Ned Stark, like giving it up, and I think she even mentions like she would have forgiven Ned 1,000 or 100 bastards if he didn't bring him home.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that it's John, it's the fact that it's a woman she can't like she doesn't know. Not only that, dude, but this actually will get me set up for like the theory crafting stuff. The fact that it's Ashara Dane is the only name we get
Mm.
early on. It is not a character we get at all in the show, so I actually would like you to kind of keep a close eye on this name, the Dane family. So yeah, so it's the fact that he brings her up and then she says like shut up, like he's like you just, who said it and you need to stop this now. Um but yeah, I think I kind of want to leave it at that. We will for sure learn more about their connection here. I got only like two standout lines for me here, dude. Number one, you say you love Robert like a brother. Would you leave your brother surrounded by Lannisters? This was
Mm.
just more of the good advice that Catelyn has for Ned. Ned freaking hates. Ned just didn't want to go, and she's reminding him like, dude, if you really do love him, are you gonna leave him surrounded by that? And then I think the last standout line I liked was when Catelyn ran out naked to like burn the parchment or something. And then Ned's like, Maester Luwin? And then she's like, oh, come on. Like, this Maester Luwin's delivered all my children. There's no time for false modesty. I just thought that, like, kind of spoke a lot about her character, especially when it comes to, like, dynamics in the Middle Ages, where It's supposed to be like, oh no, you can't see my wife. And then it's like, come on, bro. He's seen all this.
Yeah, it is funny. It is kind of like, we got more important shit right now. It's kind of progressive of her, really. She's kind
For
of
real,
badass for doing that.
that was very woke of her.
Yeah, I do like the chapter. It was pretty short. I think like the main notes I wrote for this was like, this is really where the game begins for the Starks.
Hmm.
Like I feel like prior to this, again, I don't think they really like to get into the politics of it all. But I feel like here is when we. So you're right. I did jump ahead. This is the chapter that I've been referencing so much. Of just like this is where it really starts for them. This is where we can kind of see them. I'd probably say at their peak ability because they're together, they're united. And it's also kind of like a sad foreshadowing of like this is where we get to see the gang split up. Like this is like a big moment in the show where we only get to see the Stark family together really one time all together. And like this is kind of mapping out how everything gets decided and how everybody is going to split up. So it is pretty somber as well this chapter because it's like damn, like they're going to split everybody up really soon.
Yeah, and it's tough on Kat, who had just had the experience of having everyone leave her already, Brandon dying as a result, and marrying Brandon's brother, who she didn't know, and then him coming back with a child, not hers. So it's like she doesn't want to go through this again, and unfortunately, duty's compelling her to once again go through it again.
Mm-hmm.
All right, dude. Theory crafting. Theory crafting. Let's throw out that beautiful name out there. Ashara Dane. Oh my goodness. Talk
Yeah, what's the
about
story there?
talk about beautiful people, dude. When it comes to if you think about baddies in Game of Thrones lore, think about baddies, right? You got Targaryens on top. House Targaryen producing baddies on baddies. Next house who produces the most baddies, I think, would be that we see canonically.
It's probably like
I
the
don't.
Tyrells or
Yeah, I was gonna say
something.
Tyrells. Tyrells probably throw out baddies. But like, let's put Tyrells on three, cause number two is the Danes. Okay,
The
number
Danes
two
are
is the Danes.
they're interesting because I feel like in the show, no real impact. I
No.
feel like they're not even really a house anymore. So this is interesting. Like this is where we start to kind of get into uncharted territories for me because I really have
Hmm.
no clue who they are. I obviously know Sir Arthur Dane, the
Hmm.
goat.
The goat.
Um, but other than that, really, really nothing else. So Ashara will be something that I have to keep an eye on. Um, but yeah, I feel like the Dane house in general is very mysterious. Like, who are they?
Yeah, because we've gotten a lot of mentions within the 15 chapters we set out to read. We've got quite a few mentions already of them. And I kind of want to start off with Ashara Dane here. So Ashara was the younger sister of Arthur Dane. During the lore, she was the lady in waiting, and she was friends to Princess Elia Martell. The House Danes is situated in Dorne, technically,
Mm,
but they're one of the houses, kind of like Sir Christian Cole, where they're like, yeah, they're in Dorne, but they're more like Andals. They're more like the
okay.
white people, I guess. But I think they're spicy though. They're like Irish, so
Okay.
they have, I think it's purple eyes.
It's like
Almost look,
lilac or something.
yeah, they're almost like Targaryen eyes here. And the only thing that I kind of want to note from the lore is that according to the rumors, Eddard and Lady Ashara met during the tourney of Harrenhal. And the tourney of Harrenhal is going to be a big moment for a lot of people. This is where Rhaegar crowned Lyanna the prettiest
Mhm.
lady, right? And in this scene, or in this attorney, I think at the night festivities, Brandon actually talks to Ashara, and she's like, "Bro, have you met my little brother, Eddard?"
Mm.
And legend says that they do dance. They do dance the night away, and I think this might be for later in the book, so I actually didn't confirm, but I'm just gonna drop it here because House Dane is gonna be someone we will see later in the show, in the series. Illyria Dane, Ashara's younger sister, claims that that's the night Ashara and Eddard fell in love.
Mm.
Okay, so a little bit to give with House Dane here. Could it throw a wrench in the narrative that we already know from the show? Maybe. But the other thing I did want to get to House Dane is that aside from them being a Dornish house, Sir Arthur Dane was actually probably like the most important person aside from Ashara.
Mm,
Um, they were probably the best swordsmen next to Sir Barristan Selmy at the time. There is even a bout in which Barristan Selmy recounts that Arthur broke 12 lances against Rhaegar in a tournament and ultimately ended up losing.
dang.
So these guys were the shit. There is also a character known the Smiling Knight that led the Kingswood Brotherhood, which was just a band of outlaws. And Arthur was the one who had killed him and gained recognition. It was also at this moment where he knighted Jaime Lannister as a knight. And the only other thing notable for House Dane is that they do have a sword for their house, but unlike Valyrian swords of traditional houses, this one's actually made out of a meteorite. And
Mm,
it possesses like otherworldly qualities. It shines, it shimmers, it looks weird, it's super sharp as well. And yeah, I don't know if we'll get to see it used. But I thought it was interesting to note since we will get talked about the sword. And then the last thing, actually, unlike it being passed down to the firstborn heir, the sword only gets passed to whoever is worthy.
mm.
And as of
A King
now,
Arthur type.
no one's claimed it. And his name is Arthur.
Interesting, George.
And no one's claimed it since then. I think that might be where the lore's at with it. And dude, I know we're running close on time here. Do you think we got time to finish chapter 7?
10 minutes. You can try to go through chapter 7.
We got speed run it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it so we stay on
Yeah.
track.
Sounds good. I think chapter 8 is a great spot to pick off since it's gonna do a lot here.
You know,
So, Arya's chapter.
love
How do
this
we feel?
chapter.
Woo! Talk
Really
to me.
love this
Talk to
chapter.
me.
You know, I love the sibling rivalry. Man, one of the things I really, 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 really want to talk about with this chapter is I had seen this conversation on the internet, and this is going to jump ahead a lot, but
Hmm.
I want to bring this up in terms of now how I'm like rethinking and how I'm starting to view characters. But I had seen this conversation on the internet, and it was basically why was it that Marjorie Tyrell did not get manipulated or did not get bodied as hard as Sansa did with Joffrey?
Hmm.
It was basically this idea. Basically, somebody said, like, well, think about it. Marjorie's grandmother was literally the Queen of Thorns. Like, somebody so notoriously cunning. Like, she's like Littlefinger. We haven't even met these characters, but
Yeah.
right. Queen of Thorns is like a top tier player, and that is who has been grooming Marjorie. Whereas in this chapter, we see the training that Sansa's getting. She's being trained how so, she's being trained how to do all her womanly duties, and it kind of puts into perspective, like, man, like the Starks really were, and it kind of also goes along with my theory of like maybe if Ned had Cat, things wouldn't have happened in the way that they did. But just the Starks have really lived like a sheltered life, not having to deal with like all these other people who are just out to get you all the time. So that's one thing that I took a lot from this chapter is like, let me actually start paying attention to what the Starks are actually kind of capable of, at least from the start. This also comes into play again with like Robb later on. We're going to see pretty early his early political prowess. But yeah, with Sansa, it's just like, man, like this girl was set up to fail for King's Landing. Because I think at least with Arya, she's at least talking to Jon and she's able to get like a different perspective. Like I feel like when she talks to Jon, she can kind of see like, man, like the world's kind of unfair. Like Jon is as much as our brother as anybody else. Like why is he being treated differently? And I think like just early interactions like that are way better training than whatever they're doing for Sansa. So I think that the sibling rivalry is fun, but I think more importantly, it's just kind of interesting to see how each of these kids are kind of navigating what it's going to be like having to deal with like the Lannisters. And then obviously we talked about this already, but just the detail of the fact that Joffrey had the Baratheon and the Lannister sigil on himself,
Yeah.
super interesting. Like, okay, buddy, I would get it if Cersei's going around and or Jaime is going around demanding that they have the Lannister sigil everywhere.
Hmm.
But Joffrey, like, you should be a Baratheon through and through. Like, why do you have like the Lannister mark on you? So I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I haven't really given it much thought as to that, but it's an interesting point you make where it's like, yeah, does Joffrey pride himself as a Baratheon, or has he always seen himself as a Lannister? Because he definitely doesn't portray any real qualities of what we would consider a Baratheon.
Yeah, exactly.
He's definitely a dick, but like he can't like he's all
But like,
bark for sure.
I was gonna say like the Baratheons are like lovable dicks, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like at the end of the day, like you want to hang out with a Baratheon. No one likes
true.
Lannisters, and no one likes
Freaking
Joffrey.
And everyone hates Joffrey. Dude, I wanted to add a little bit more to the points you were making between Sansa being set up to fail. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting that you brought up the Queen of Thorns as being like a mentor figure to them. And I think Jon kind of plays that role for Arya a little bit,
Right?
you know,
Mhm.
showing that it's not fair. I think even jumping off a little bit where she mentions like the qualities of everyone else and the fact that she only looks like John and she would cry because she thought she was a bastard. Like that was so fucked up. But John was the one that was consoling
Right?
her. Yeah, and I thought that was very sweet. Yeah, I also wrote about like the brother and sister dynamic. It's like a lot of fun seeing that and the way that she counts on John to be that guy for her. But just another jump off point. I'm curious if Lyanna was alive, would Sansa have been set up a little bit better? I feel like maybe Sansa needed to have a figure like Lyanna, because Cat
Yeah,
wasn't gonna represent that.
yeah, and I feel
She,
like John and Rob have Benjen. You know,
yeah,
needed that too.
yeah, and that sucks, man. I got to start putting it into that perspective too. But that's interesting. You noted that. Yeah, I love this chapter. I love seeing the relationship as the brother. We also get a little bit of the lore of like Needle, the name Needle,
Oh
throughout the
yeah,
thing. I
that
thought
was
that was fun. We see a little bit of like the noble customs where it's just like the princes fighting, and it reminded me of the House of the Dragons episode where it's the
oh
princes
yeah.
fighting. That was a cool little connection there. Yeah, dude, this was a good little chapter that built on the relationship between the siblings,
Yeah.
especially John being very perceptive.
This one
Let's
was
see.
fun, and I think
Uh,
it again kind of just points out, how differently John is treated. And we can also start to see like Rob's sometimes he's a little bit rash, right? Like he is a lot more emotional than John. And you do it. Joffrey was getting under his skin, man. Joffrey's annoying, but
he
you
did
know,
good.
I definitely think he won out in that exchange. Because it does feel like it's kind of like when the city kid bullies somebody from the country. It's like
Yeah.
just more clever and they're a lot more quick-witted, and the country person's always supposed to be like an oaf. Definitely got that vibes from that interaction. So it was fun. We kind of learned a lot about all of the children's, kind of character traits.
Yeah, dude, they're setting us to hate Joffrey real good, but he definitely won that exchange. I think part of the writing that I really appreciated this chapter was a lot of the moments where we get like the internal monologue of Arya, where it would be like, oh, where it would be like they were talking about like Marcella stitching, and then she'd be like, Marcella Stitch is like a little crooked too.
Yeah.
Or there would be stuff like she had a bony face, sharp eyes, and thin lipless mouths made for frowning. It was frowning now. Like it's just like those matter of fact statements that like a child would make. And I think that was really funny. Or dude, when she freaking tells off this the what's her name, Septa Mordain, where she's like, I have to go shoe a horse. She freaking walks out of there, like all proud of it. That I think it was just like those little moments are really cool for Arya's character, especially like the naming convention of like naming her wolf Nymeria, and the fact that like oh that caused a whole incident on its own.
Yeah.
Like yeah, she did this shit on purpose. She loves this type of drama, but but man, she's good at it here. Let's see. Yeah, but I think the last statement here was just George John being able to like describe that the world is unfair. And
Yeah.
like yeah, like you guys just won't. I know yours is tough, mine's tough, but like we don't get to make the rules. And I thought that was just a nice thing to add for Arya's character. I think that sets her up for the remaining chapters, especially since we kind of already know what Arya's journey is going to look like. So getting that early sucks, but she needed to hear it. Let's see here. I didn't have like any theory crafting connections here. I didn't get any sense of like warging. I didn't get anything mentioned that I could have jumped off from. A lot of it is just kind of just jumping into the Nymeria connection. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her. They don't mention her too much.
No.
Princess Nymeria from the city of Rhone. I know I'm not pronouncing that right, but it was a Valyrian freehold, and she led her people away from the Valyrian slavers because that's what they ultimately did. And one of the lords that left with her was named Lord Morris Martell. Right? Let's keep a pin on that. Later, when they landed on Westeros, where is now Dorne, she had burned all her ships and said like there's no going back, this is it. So she led her people through a lot of battles, and she ended up marrying Morris Martell, and part of her customs from her people was that she kept the princess title. So there are princess and princes of Dorne, not necessarily like the one ruler, but it's just like a title thing that they kept from those old times. And that is Nymeria, who Arya named her wolf after.
Okay. She's kind of cooking.
Yeah, that was a hard, like, dang, she know balls like that? Like, that's crazy. I didn't know that.
She's smart.
She is
smart. I guess that's like a pretty early foreshadowing. Like I think like we're starting to kind of see like some of the kids are starting out pretty strong. They're having kind of a leg up over their counterparts, but I think they're all gonna find their way eventually.
Yeah, dude, I think that's a great point to end off. I think the only other no, there's two. We haven't gotten to Sansa yet, and then I was gonna say we're gonna start off with Bran, and they're about to leave. So, any closing pointers? Anything we didn't get to you might have wanted to revisit now?
No, honestly, I feel like we got through everything. I'm glad we're on schedule. You know, the thing is, I'm really excited to get through this book and start to get into the rest of them. You know, hopefully this goes well. And I'm really excited to start a new book with you in the future.
That would be great.
Of one that we haven't read.
Yeah,
Or-
I do have a suggestion for one. If you're into like sci-fi,
Okay.
there's the Hyperion by Dan Simmons. I've heard that one's pretty good.
I heard of this book called Red Rising. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Let me look at Red Rising. Right now I'm reading A Court of Thrones. I don't know if you've heard. Oh, yeah, I have heard of this one.
I heard this one's like also similar to like a Game of Thrones-esque. And
I saw.
it's gonna get adapted soon to a show.
Oh, dude. Okay, that would be great if we were like to pick this up and then be like a watch journey. Like, just being able to like, oh, we read it first, and then we're gonna watch the show and do like that's content, baby. Content, baby.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. And apparently, this author is also doing a George R.R. Martin where he just doesn't want to finish it. You know, so we got to throw ourselves into another author who thinks like that.
That's great. That's actually like if kind of what I wanted to do. That'd be a great like theory or channel topic thing to focus on, like unfinished works. Oops.
Yeah,
Because then Berserk's on that list too, and I've never actually delved into that.
I want to. I heard the Berserk manga's insane.
That'd be great to get into. But anyways, dude, how about let's close it off? I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording button, and we will see you guys in the next one. Boop.